So two big issues there facing the government, the drone strikes on IS targets in Syria and, of course, the flow of refugees right across Europe. Well, let's get some thoughts now from Labour leadership contender Andy Burnham. He joins me live in the studio. Mr Burnham, thank you very much for coming in. Is Michael Fallon right to say that he wouldn't hesitate to use British drone strikes on British fighters working with IS inside Syria?
Well, I think we need to take a little step back from that because this drone strike took us into unprecedented territory where we'd never seen something of that kind before. So surely if this has set a precedent, the government should set out the criteria by which it would take any further action.
But he was very specific. He said he wouldn't hesitate, and neither would the Prime Minister, to do this again. If you were Prime Minister, would you adopt the same policy?
To protect the public, of course.
Would you not hesitate to use these drones again?
Well, if the security of the public was at risk, and that's the point, isn't it? If there was a threat to the British public, an urgent threat, then of course action has to be taken. And I would support the Prime Minister and the Defence Secretary in that. But I do think they should publish the legal advice that they had about this. They should publish the intelligence, or some of it, so that people could see whether or not it was justified, and the criteria that they would use if they were to do it again in the future. And to date, they've refused to do that, and I think they do, because this is an extension of the power of the state, and there has to be accountability.
Your rival, Jeremy Corbyn, says he's against new raids. So this isn't a case of I agree with Jeremy, then, is it?
No, I wouldn't rule out the giving agreement to the further military action in Syria. I've said that, but there is a big but here. The government has to put forward its case. It also has to present the evidence as to why British troops should be involved. And then, of course, it needs to allow time for the opposition and indeed Parliament to debate it.
Even if there isn't time? Even if they have to work within a 24-hour reactive period?
Well, I'm not convinced that it's that urgent, because we have American troops leading those airstrikes right now. You know, the opposition can't be bounced into this, because that would be disrespectful to Parliament, but more to the country. Okay. It's an important decision. The Prime Minister needs to handle it properly.
And on the issue of refugees, particularly Syrian refugees, how many would you let in? The government's saying 20,000 over 5 years. Would you be a bit more generous?
Well, I think that's, you know, to come up with a fixed 5-year plan doesn't seem to me to be the way to respond to what is a fast-developing situation.
How many would you let in?
Well, we've said 10,000 is a good place to start, because
so,
you know,
there are far fewer than what the government's.
No, this year. We're saying now, because the government are talking around 4,000 this year. Well, the scale of this problem is far bigger than that. We can't let Greece, can we, shoulder this on its own, all the problems that Greece has. You know, the government is saying that it won't work with other European countries to relieve the pressure that they're under. I think that's a mistake. They should be working with European neighbours to provide refuge to people.
Let's talk about the Labour leadership campaign. You've been on the campaign trail for, what, 4 months now? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
D-Day is this Saturday. You're not in the lead in terms of the polls. Do you really think you can be crowned leader on Saturday?
I do. I'm confident going into the final stages, and the media portrayal doesn't tell the true story. People have held back.
The media portrayal, it's the polls.
Well,
Jeremy Corbyn is very firmly in the lead, isn't he? He is, if the polls are correct, are going to be elected Labour leader on Saturday.
Well, no, people are calling this as done and dusted. Certainly not. There's everything to play for. People still haven't cast their votes. And what matters to people in the final analysis is who can unite the Labour Party and who can make it electable again. And I believe I am the person that can do both of those things. So as people hesitate over their votes and they really think about it, I can see, I've been talking to them on the phone banks tonight, there's voters coming back to me, and I believe I can do this. And actually, the Labour Party is facing a big moment here. People need to think very carefully before they vote, and I'm confident I can still do it.
Is he Prime Minister material, Jeremy Corbyn? Can you really see him on the steps of number 10?
Well, that's for others to judge. It's not for me to pontificate about the other candidates.
This campaign, you would never have put him where he is now, would you? Honestly, so is he really Prime Minister material? Really,
that's for others to judge. It's not for me to be negative about other candidates. You know, I'm a candidate in this race. The right thing for me to do is to put my own case, and I am saying that I am electable. I've been in the cabinet, the shadow cabinet.
You've been an MP for 14 years.
I have.
You've been in the shadow cabinet in the front bench.
Yep. I will put Labour back in touch with the public, and I will make us win again.
But you haven't done it up until now, have you? And you have had a stab at the leadership campaign before.
I have. And that was 5 years ago, and I'm trying again. The polls show, there was a poll out yesterday that shows amongst the public, not Labour members, amongst the public, they see me as the person most likely to re-elect Labour.
Labour member or the public?
But in the end, we've got to win a general election, haven't we? You know, Labour's no good to people if we're just talking to ourselves.
You've got to be
There's
elected
people out there
first, though,
losing their tax credits, young people struggling to get on in life. They need a strong Labour Party that can win again.
And you must be a bit worried about the future of your party come next week, particularly if Jeremy Corbyn is the leader. Is there a danger it could split?
I am worried about the future of the Labour Party. You're right to ask that question. There is a risk of that, absolutely. There is a risk of Labour going back to the 1980s when we were more interested in fighting each other and we left the pitch clear for Margaret Thatcher to bulldoze her way through Labour communities across the country. We cannot let history repeat itself.
What would you do come Sunday and Jeremy Corbyn's the leader? Are you going to work with him or are you going to set up something separate?
I'll always serve Labour. People know me, I'm Labour through and through. I'll always do whatever I can to hold the party together. But that's my message. You know, if you are worried about Labour in the aftermath, if you want Labour to unite, I'm your man.
OK, just a few days to go now. Andy Burnham, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.